Hello and welcome everyone to today's new and AI stream. Like every stream, we've gathered the most interesting projects and releases from the last couple of days. There is a lot of things happening in the AI space. With me is Emmanuel, you probably know him by now.
Hi,
Yeah,
everyone.
and we will discuss these releases a bit during the stream. So let's jump right into this. So I love this first. So this is a paper that was released from Google Research and Cornell University. And I love what they are doing here. So, just to explain, on the left side, you have a bunch of imperfect photos. And what you can do now is basically take this image right here and then do this kind of inpainting, but with the knowledge of all the other photos. So, basically, if you have a look at this first example right here, you can see that there's only a tiny bit of the background actually in this picture. And then the background actually gets taken from these reference images right here, and then basically outpainted into this last picture right here. And I really love this approach because I could see so many actual products, or at least things like mobile phones could be using this. We will come to the Google Pixel 8 later. Um, yeah, but I basically love this feature. Yeah.
Yeah, like it looks pretty cool. I think I've seen maybe nothing like similar to this, but yes, I get something along those lines. But yeah, it's basically like image generation with the actual like what's going on there.
Hmm, hmm.
So it just it like at least what it reminds me of. I don't know if you've heard of the ship of Theseus. If not, it'll just put it like this, like where do we draw the line to say that's like really the picture? Because like is it the
Hmm.
picture or is it like an AI generated image, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, but like it's pretty cool, like it's definitely useful.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I have not seen something similar anywhere. So yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. Um, yeah, and you can check out the whole paper if you're interested. You will find all of these links in the description or on the LabLab Discord. They, of course, dive into the details right here. There are some more examples right here of this church, which also then gets painted in this nice way. Yeah, they also have some comparison here between things like Stable Diffusion, outpainting, and then their method, which is way better. But I'm sure that everyone knows this problem, you could say, where you basically
Yeah.
take a bunch of photos with your phone camera. Yeah, and in the end, you basically end up not liking any of them. But then having all of these different photos, you could just use them, kind of mix them up, and then come up with this. Yeah, they say it right here: authentic, in-painted or all-painted image. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
Um, all right, let's jump over to the next topic. So, Stability AI, the creator of the famous Stable Diffusion, have released StableLM, which is a 3 billion parameter language model um, that basically brings high performance language models to smart devices. Or yeah, you could say basically to actual on the user side of things, or yeah, the consumer side of things instead of running these models in the cloud. Um, so yeah, this is pretty cool. It's basically made to be as efficient as possible and basically as small as possible. Um, Something that's also interesting to note here is they are also working on a fine-tuned instruction model, which is always pretty neat to have when you're doing this conversation kind of thing. Yeah, they're planning it to release soon. But yeah, this is great just to bring these AI models to the actual user and not have them somewhere in the cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, this of course it like improves performance, I guess, and also when you're dealing with things like data, that's you have to be careful with. You know, there's always this issue of like building these AI apps that, like for example, there's all these ideas about making these AI apps for banks and insurance using these language models,
Mhm.
but it always comes the privacy issue because you do have to send the data somewhere, and bring it back. So I guess it's a very good alternative to that. I mean, we're yet to see how good is it, but for sure seems promising.
I think this is also something very interesting for companies that ship products with integrated language models, because
Hmm.
if you're doing this right now, basically you give the user free access to a large language model, which can be very expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with this, you basically just take all the computation, do it on the user's side, and that's it. So you don't have to worry about any cost. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. Yeah, basically just another cool release from Stability AI. You can already find this model here on Hugging Face, so you can play around with this. I want to demo this really quick. Emmanuel, I think you can't see this right now, but I'm basically just showing VS Code with some examples. So yeah, right here you can find this code on Hugging Face. Basically, you just have this simple input. The weather is always wonderful. Right here I have another example with hello I am. We can run this so you can see that this is actually pretty fast. So the response is now, hello, I'm a blogger. I was curious about your situations. Um, yeah, and then it just goes on with more text. So yeah, you can generate stuff on your PC, on basically also low budget PCs pretty fast. So yeah, I hope this will enable also another wave of really cool uh, products.
Yeah, I guess at the end it all comes down to like how good does the language model perform? Because if
Mm,
like it was as easy as just making it smaller and cheaper to run, then we would be like long far from where we are right now. But we're still in that uh, figuring out this, and I guess this is one of the steps to get there. But yeah, it seems good. What you just mentioned again, like I have no idea, I haven't like really used it, but the completion to the sentence reminded me too much of the performance of GPT-2 actually,
mm.
which is significantly bigger than this. So yeah, it seems promising to me.
Yeah, of course, there's always this trade-off between then using a
Of
very
course,
powerful model in the cloud, but I'm sure that there are many tasks that can be actually done with these smaller local models.
for sure,
Sometimes I really feel like that if I'm doing a really simple task like rephrasing an email or something, that just GPT-4 is just overkill for this. I mean, I like
I
the
agree.
power and yeah, the, the capability of the model, but yeah, I guess this can be done with smaller models too.
Yeah, actually, it might be like end up in like higher performance according to what you're doing. Because yes, there's always a trade, like you say, you might trade computational power for performance, but also models like GPT-4 trade velocity, like how fast does it give you an answer back for performance.
Mm,
And if it is something like small, like you say, it might actually be the better like alternative to use a smaller model, which will improve your performance in whatever like is it doing the language model.
yeah, yeah. Um, all right, so let's jump over to another big release, this time from Meta. And this is something pretty interesting. So they present a series of models that are made for these long token or context lengths. So in this example, 32K. And these models are basically an iteration of Llama 2. And the really interesting thing here is that these models surpass GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K in a suite of long context tasks. And this is now pretty crazy that we have an open source model that basically surpasses GPT 3.5 with the 16K context. Um, so yeah, this is pretty crazy. We can also jump into the paper right here. There are some comparisons. Um, wait, there were some better ones. Mm, Give me 1 second. Um,
So this is also coming from Meta, right?
yes, yes, that's true. Yeah,
Hmm.
basically, okay, these are now comparison from the Llama 2 model in comparison to these Llama 2 long context models. Yeah, and you can see that they are a couple percentile more accurate than the normal Llama 2 models. Um, Yeah, so we definitely have an improved performance for these tasks that require long context.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I was something that we see very often when a new model comes. It's that this it outperform GPT or this or
Hmm.
that, and I think I brought this point in the last couple streams. But I'm not saying it's the case for this specific one, but it's something that happens overall that they often like you often see a handpicked set of like
Hmm.
tasks or benchmarks that yeah they might like perform better than these other bigger models, but at the end of the day, like we still don't see like so much more like things being developed on these models, which may talk a little bit of that it might not perform that well. Again, I'm not talking about this specific one, but it's always a good thing to keep in mind when you have like these newer models. And well, I don't think it's the case for this because this is coming straight from Meta,
Yeah.
but I've seen it very often for like these open source models that seem pretty cool. Like we have talked about a couple models that like were like outperforming like
Hmm.
GPT-4 in specific tasks, but that like at the end of the day, you don't see any like nobody building on that, and it might like talk to how actually like the model is performing.
Yeah,
But this is pretty
definitely.
cool, like seeing new like variations of these long context because it's not a secret that even using the Chat GPT interface, like the longer you talk with it, the worse and it becomes the performance. So it's just easier to click a new conversation.
Hmm.
So it's a good thing that they're like starting to work on improving the performance of long context models.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's pretty crazy. I'm not sure how many parameters GPT 3.5 has, but yeah, basically just coming close with 7 billion parameters to these benchmarks is already pretty impressive.
Yes,
Like you
I
said,
agree.
these benchmarks might be cherry picked and stuff like this. Um, but yeah, very interesting to see this. All right, we will now come to the Google Pixel, which is basically coming with a bunch of AI features. So let's have a quick look at this 1 minute video slash ad right here. So yeah.
Zoom in close and I might strike a pose. I'm in my zone, but I'm sure that you know. Too much drip, it ain't my fault. It's in my feet, it's in my walk. Run it like a field day, hit 'em with the freeze frame.
I've been thinking about this. Would you marry me?
Zoom in on me, back up and give me room. I become one with the camera, focus. Snapshot costs like a million. Golden, flexing, know all my angles, easy. Move to the front, make sure they can see me.
Wow.
Back up and give me.
Okay, so yeah, let's unpack this a little bit, what we are seeing right here. Okay, so you could basically crop out objects and move them. Um, this is pretty cool. I think we also saw this on iOS a couple of months
Yes.
back already. I'm not sure
No,
if
not
you can
even like
actually move the
from
object
all.
or just cut it out. Do you notice?
No, I think you can move it. Like this crop functionality is actually older than the newer like iOS releases, so that's itself it's nothing new. What I think like the point in this is that you can actually move it, and the empty space
Hmm.
from the
Hmm.
picture that you're moving, it's what like becomes AI generated.
Yeah, in Paint,
Hmm.
basically, I guess.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, yeah, so this is a pretty cool feature. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good incentive for Google to basically, or I mean, it's a good incentive or reason to buy this phone because of these features. I hope that these features will become the standard within Android devices and not only their Pixel flagship model. But yeah, okay,
Yeah, I mean, I
let's,
guess eventually we will get to the point where like all phones have this built in. Like
yeah,
how
I'm
fast
sure.
we will get there, it's the question.
I mean, theoretically, this is now possible with open source models and in just an application. The question is just when it becomes the default in phone like cameras and editing
Yeah.
programs. All right, so then we go over to this sound. So we have this audio magic eraser, which can identify sounds like wind, speech, and then you can adjust the volume level of this specific sound. Basically, you can adjust the volume, make it louder. Yeah, in this case, he reduces the volume of the wind, so you can hear the voices better. It's also a pretty cool feature. I'm wondering what this is actually powered by. I guess,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, probably, or I hope this is some on-device processing going on. Yeah, but who knows? Make it sharp. This is also something pretty interesting. So we have this really blurry image. Click unblur, and there we go. I guess this is also AI upscaling or
Yeah.
sharpening. We have seen similar models that can do this, but also very useful, especially for handheld phones. Yeah, this is always a major issue.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what else is going on here. This is also something very, very interesting.
This is similar to what we just saw in the first example, I guess. Like it takes from all the set of pictures and it kind of puts together this not not fake, but yeah, like constructed like best picture. See?
Yeah, but pretty cool to see this. I would also be very interested in actually testing this out and see if it works that well, because of course this is an ad, so these are cherry-picked examples. Yeah, but it looks very clean. Yeah, and this is also a feature that I would personally love to have.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and this right here is probably also something very interesting. So instead of cropping out an object and then moving it out and then have the background automatically filled, you can also just choose to remove something by hand. Yeah, also pretty neat. Yeah, pretty cool features for sure.
Yeah, I guess like there's actually even like seeing one by one, there's not still a lot to unpack on this because like we have to remember that these it's not like you don't expect this type of quality of results from like low like weight and like not very heavy models, for example in image generation and all this type. And I guess this all has to be running within the device. So it
Yeah.
bears the question like did they optimize the models or whatever is it like powering these functionalities, or is this device like actually very like strong computational wise?
Probably.
Yeah, maybe both, a little bit of both, but also like what I find like a little bit mind blowing, it's how fast we went from like these all like AI stuff being there, but only you could use it if you had like somewhat like some tech like knowledge and you knew how to set up a model and how to like everything work it out. You
Yeah.
maybe didn't understand what was going on behind, but you needed to know how to like you know how the process is to set up like an open source project and so on. To then like these web UIs where like yeah you could do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but then like credits and stuff like these, you don't get like very big images. To it's in your phone, like it's literally in your personal device, and you can do it like at any time you want.
Yeah, that's true. I
So
remember
it's
when
really
Stable
fast.
Diffusion was released, which is also this image generation model, that I basically tried to set this up. Yet I still, although I have a pretty strong PC and graphics card, I still had to struggle a little bit. Yeah, now, like you said, we have this on the phone. Pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's not news that technology moves like at an exponential pace. Like, of course, we've done more in the last 5 years that we did in the 10 years before that, and that we did in the 50 years before that, and so on. But I still find it like mind blowing how fast, like, how the accessibility to these technology is becoming. And like, we've seen several products that now have this tech built in the product, which of course seems like the general trend and the smart thing to do. But like this is just like that, to have it in your phone, it seems like very like big jump to having in the Google like browser and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is very cool, very cool to see.
Is this actually released yet, or is this just an announcement, or can I buy
I
this right now?
I'm not sure.
Okay, you can pre-order. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, maybe let's jump over to the next topic for now. So this is also coming from Google DeepMind, and basically this is another technique of prompting large language models. So they reference the chain of thought tactic, or how could you say, prompting method. Um, they also highlight some problems with this. So basically, you need labeled examples of this reasoning process. And now they introduce this new approach called analogical prompting. And maybe let's jump right to an example right here. So basically, this is the zero shot, so just generating a normal thing. Then we have the chain of thought process, yeah, which also works. But basically, you need this labeled exemplars. And now we come to their method, where we basically let the model first generate some content, and then we put this content also into the prompt. And this then improves the actual generation by some percent. So you can see right here, basically, there's an instruction, recall relevant exemplars. So basically, it created some few shot examples for itself and for this specific problem. Yeah, and then the second thing is to solve the initial problem, which is then down here. Yeah, and you can see that these are basically the exemplars are automatically generated and tailored to each problem, which then in the end improves the overall performance and capabilities of the large language model. There
Yeah, I
are,
mean, we
yeah,
like models are trained on something, so they might be just retrieving the data they were trained on, like something around that, and then that's why like it becomes better because like they remind themselves instead of you having to go like give a few short examples, I guess.
yeah. So this is just another example. So here it's just the model should tackle mathematical problems. We have a problem, then we have these instructions. So again, we should recall relevant examples. So yeah, basically the model is then generating 3 of these examples right here. These are then put into the real prompt. And then let's solve the following math problem. So it basically does this, the real question at the end. Yeah, and then comes up with a very good solution. And something that is interesting here are these benchmarks. So right here, these are all the different prompting methods. So you have zero shot chain of thoughts, 5-shot chain of thoughts, and then their self-generated exemplars. And you can see all these different models right here. Yeah, and you can see that this method really improves the accuracy of the large language model by 1% with 3.5. Text DaVinci, it's almost 10%, a little bit less, 6%, 8, 7%. Palm 2, it's 1%. Yeah, and these are also a little bit better than the model in general or with chain of thought. Then something that is very impressive, I think, is the GPT-4 results. So you can boost this yeah, by 2%. And here 5%. So yeah, I think just in general, it's pretty interesting that we have these methods of prompting that can just improve the overall model performance. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
very nice that this whole prompt engineering it's becoming its own area of like study because it will like it is already super relevant to everything that's going on. And it's curious to see why does it respond better to its own examples than some examples given by an external source. But yeah, it's always good to see that there's some development in this area of research.
And I mean, this is coming from Google DeepMind, so they
Yeah.
are very serious about this. So yeah, great to see some progress or yeah, some research going on in this field. I think it's also pretty interesting that these models are basically released, and I guess also OpenAI and other things label them as not harmful because they claim to know what they're capable of. but from day to day, we see new examples of actually improving the output capabilities of these models. So that is something also very interesting. Yeah.
I agree. Like the prompt can become something very powerful if it's properly like used, but to have a like real understanding, which is why I guess like there's this whole like new area of study like prompt engineering.
Yes, so if someone who's watching wants to dive deeper into this, you will find all the links in the description. All right, so let's have a look at this GitHub repo right here. Unfortunately, this is only for MacBooks, but yeah, I guess a lot of people are using MacBooks, so it's still worth to look at. So basically, this is localpilot, and it says use GitHub Copilot locally on your MacBook with one click. So this is pretty cool because this screenshot basically shows it. You have this nice icon in your toolbar, or I'm not sure what it's called on Mac, but yeah, basically in your toolbar, you have the selection of all these different models. So you have GitHub Cloud, which is then, I guess, in the end is just GPT 3.5 or something running in the cloud. Basically just the original model that is used for GitHub Copilot. And then you can choose these other models. So you have Code Llama 7 billion, you have the new Mistral 7 billion model. So here we actually see this in a product.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same. I was thinking exactly the same thing.
We had this discussion that
Yes.
models get released, but we don't often see products. But this Mistral model was especially good in code generation,
Yes.
so it makes sense to actually use here. Yeah, and then the bigger Code Llama model is also on here. Pretty impressive to see that this can run on a MacBook with this 34 billion parameters. Yeah, this is basically a cool example right here. So he just types out the function, and we all know this. So GitHub Copilot is now coming up with the completion. So we have this nice function right here. And now he goes to the top of his screen and chooses from the original model to a Code Llama model, turns off Wi-Fi, so there's no internet connection. So you know everything is running locally. And now you see that you still get these very good code completion results. So yeah, this is also something very cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, only it runs on MacBooks, but I'm sure if we have this, there will be some kind of pull request or another project that will also make this available for just general Windows machines or any type
That's
of.
the wonder of open source.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it seems like it's pretty easy to just run. So yeah, super cool to see this. Maybe this will also be available in the official App Store soon. I saw that there is some roadmap for this. So right here, the author just didn't have had the time yet. So yeah, pretty cool to see this. Yeah, and actually have these new small models run locally to generate code. Yeah, it's a very cool thing.
Agreed.
Okay, so let's jump over to this last thing. So this is especially interesting for the developers who are watching. If you are building with large language models, you probably noticed that tokens are very important to keep track of when just doing anything. So this is basically a repository that can count the tokens of an entire repository. So you have this basic command that you can run, and then you get this nice overview of what kind of files you have, if there are blank spaces, things like this, comments, code, and then the token count. So you can basically count all your tokens with one single command in an entire directory or repository. So yeah, this is pretty neat if you basically want to summarize an entire repo or something like this. You can just count the token length of the entire repository. Yeah, this is basically just super great for all the developers who are watching and are facing these kinds of problems.
Yes, tokens are always relevant when dealing with language models.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this makes it just super easy to actually calculate how much tokens in the end are basically what the token cost would be when working with this repository.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we definitely had some very interesting things today. So if you are watching and are interested in these technologies, make sure to check out lablab.ai. We have all these awesome hackathons coming up. So yeah, if you're interested, make sure to check them out, register, find a great team, and build really awesome applications. So yeah, I guess that's it for today. So thank you to everyone who's watching. And yeah, I will see you, or we will see you on Tuesday for our next New and AI stream.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Have a great day and a great weekend.